Ready?
Yeah.
Sir.
Welcome everybody to the Real Talk Show number 2.
Even though we're number one.
Man, we have a very, very special episode, man. So I hope everybody's tuned in. To tune into this episode, follow us on YouTube, The Real Talk Show 973. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, The Real Talk Show number 2. Y'all know we number 1, man.
Yes,
and we have a very special episode, guys. Who we got?
Yes.
The one and only Akbar Pray.
Finally
the legend,
got a
the
legend.
Man, the myth, the legend.
First legend
here
in the studio.
Flesh, man. What's going on,
How are you?
Absolutely.
How's everything?
Everything is good.
Amen. Amen.
Absolutely, that's
Glad to
good.
be here.
Hey, nah, that's a fact.
Appreciate you coming by.
Yeah,
So we could just start it off real quick. Give a quick intro. You just want to let the people know who you are. Give a quick, maybe 1 minute intro to
Okay.
who's Akbar Pray.
Well, I guess I'm a combination of things. Like
Yes.
most people, I'm multifaceted.
Okay.
I've been alleged to have been a super drug kingpin, a businessman, an author, a poet, a family man, an entrepreneur, impresario. I've worn many hats.
Okay.
But I think that the hat that I would say that I enjoy the most is as a family man and as being philanthropic.
Okay.
I like doing work to the benefit and behest of the people, and to the benefit and behest of the black community.
Okay.
yes.
So that's where I take my most joy now.
All right. Most of the things you do are based out of Newark, or
It's headquartered in Newark, but it's becoming somewhat of a pandemic because I'm getting requests from a lot of other cities across the country to bring the program that I'm starting here to bring it to their city,
okay, nice.
particularly throughout the South.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Good.
That's
The South
nice,
needs
man.
you. South needs you.
Yeah.
Like,
That's good.
how did you manage to put all this together in so many times? Because I've been watching you, and I don't know about everybody, but I've heard your name and ring bells for some bad things. But now you changed the whole dynamic, and you're doing exactly what needs to be done, and we appreciate you. I know
Absolutely.
the state of New Jersey appreciate you, because I travel all throughout New Jersey, and I've heard your name, of course, hear your story, but beyond your story is amazing, because what you're doing in the community right now, you're reaching out to not just the youth, but you're also reaching out to politics as well and stuff. So how does it feel for you, personally?
I'm living my dream, and I'm fulfilling my goals.
Amen.
I've always, with the whole time that I was in prison, not the whole time, but a great deal of the time that I was in prison, and as I walked the yards and talked with the guys, I heard about the state of things in Newark, and how wild and erratic it had become. Now listen, Newark has always been a violent city in some regards, but the violence was less random, it was less reckless. There was no such thing when I left as a drive-by shooting.
Oh.
That was a West Coast phenomenon that made it to the East.
Yeah.
So if a guy had a problem with somebody, they generally tracked them down and they handled their business with them. But when it got to the point where you would shoot in a crowd of 10 or 15 people
Wow.
to try and get one person, you pray and spray,
Yeah.
then I knew that it was spiraling out of control.
Yeah.
Oh, my
absolutely.
God.
That's different. People don't, especially now too. Like nobody really wanted to get out the car and do what they needed to do. Because honestly, if you look at me speaking about it, I just think it's cowardly. First of all, because if you really had a beef like that, you would step out the car and make sure no one else gets hurt, or just make sure if you wanted to actually hurt somebody, you just make sure it's on them.
Absolutely.
So
Right.
just the way people doing it now is definitely cowardly, and it's a lot of the youth just needs guidance.
That people misconstrue
Yeah,
that indifference for being gangster.
exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
That's not gangster at all.
Not
one bit.
I don't care who get it.
Yeah.
So where do you feel like it got mixed up at? Because I remember the 90s being wild. I grew up in New Jersey, Virginia, and Alabama. No cameras, no phones, no nothing. So where did the transition? And we're not advertising violence and stuff, but I grew up a fighter and stuff. And then the gun phenomenon just came out of nowhere. So
They've got a term, and the term says that nature abhors a vacuum, and that wherever there's an emptiness, nature will find a way to fill it. And in this particular case, the guys that were real thought leaders, although they were in the game, they were thought leaders, and they were sort of conscientious about shit that they did.
They had restrictions.
Yeah. So when that vacuum is gone, early, even before that, there used to be the Nation of Islam, the Black Panther Party, the Revolutionary Action Movement, the Republic of New Africa. And if you were young and you were full of testosterone and what they call piss and vinegar, then you found a way to fill that in one of those organizations. You know, but when those organizations were either decimated by the federal government or became institutions as opposed to movements, because movements move.
Right.
Institutions are institutionalized. So when they became institutions, in some cases where they became a part of the system that they said that they was trying to change, because what the government will do, what the powers that be will do, is they will offer you an inducement to be part of it. If you're a radical, they say, we're going to put you on the board.
Wow.
You're going to be on the board for Coke. You're going to be on the board for Revlon, And you compromise your own ethos. And so no longer you're part of the struggle. You're part of the institution. You don't want to overturn the apple cart. You want to make sure the apple cart is maintained.
Yeah.
So by doing that, they de-radicalized a lot of guys that were radical. Okay. And in that vacuum where we didn't have a Nation of Islam, you didn't have a Republic of New Africa, you didn't have a Revolutionary Action Movement, you didn't have New Black Panthers, there was a vacuum. And although men seek to exercise, to release that testosterone, when you don't have a place to channel that energy, you're going to channel it somewhere.
Somewhere, right.
What came in place of that was gangs.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And
and we all know gangs was supposed to be made to, protect and stuff like that.
But it still offered the camaraderie because people were also looking for camaraderie. Now, and I've just been in an environment where gangs proliferate. I'm coming out of jail after 37 years, So they have the Bloods, they got the Crips, they got the Gangster Disciples, they got the Vice Lords, they got the Four Corner Hustlers. Every gang that you can think of is in them jails. They got the Mexicans, the Pasas, the Serranos, the Mexican Mafia. Coming from that environment, although I don't agree with first, gangs don't have long-term goals. You differentiate gangs from organized crime.
Right.
A gang is what it says it is. It's just a movement of people doing it. Organized crime is organized. They might control the labor movement. They might control the unions. That's organized. Gangs, as it's commonly being practiced, is disorganized. But they filled the vacuum. And since you didn't have what they call the big homies in the streets no more because everybody had got locked up, then the shot caller might be 15 years old and don't have a GED.
Yeah, exactly.
But he got 3 bodies.
Yeah, right.
So then
Jacket still stands.
Yeah, so he becomes the shot caller. So you're not advancing because of how much information you can disseminate or how smart you are in business. Say, we getting ready to do this. We getting ready to buy the shopping mall. It's we beefing with them. And we get ready to go by there and spray.
There's no financial literacy or anything involved, so that's the main thing. That's honestly what I've been trying to spray too. Like I said, with financial literacy, and most people most of the younger people just need the knowledge, a mentor, just someone to tell them the right thing to do. So now I was wondering, you said 36. I was like, you said 36 years. I'm like, you got locked up when I was just born. I'm 36. So while you was in there, how did you stay informed of what was going on and the different changes? Because 30 years, that's, you know what I mean? How did you navigate that?
I have, throughout my life, since the time I was 4, been an eclectic, I won't even say there's a term vociferous, but I've just been very driven by reading.
Okay.
I learned how to read at about 4.
Yes, we talked about that.
And I was privy, in some regards, it was both advantaged and disadvantaged by the environment that I came in. I was born into an all-drug environment. Okay. Everybody in my house either used drugs or sold drugs. When I was a little boy, they kept the drugs in my pajamas. And when people came to cop, then I would give them 2 or 3 bags. That went on all night. If somebody came to get a hit, then they would call Akbar. He's lucky. He'll help me find a vein. And I would help him find a vein and get a quarter.
Really?
Yeah. However, notwithstanding all of that, and I say I was both advantage and disadvantage, some of the early drug addicts were your poets, your singers, your songwriters. Some of them were very, very educated.
Yeah.
And they used to come to my room and talk with me. I had a near photographic memory for most of my life. So anything that anybody told me, anything that I read, I remembered. And they was talking with me because these guys, some of them were coming from Howard, but they were dope fiends. You know, they were coming from top colleges, but they were drug addicts. So they would ask me, had I ever heard The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe? And once upon a midnight dreary, as I wandered weak and weary over many quaint and curious forgotten books of yore.
That's
As
it.
I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a rapping, if someone was gently tapping on my chamber door. 'Tis some visitor, I uttered only this and nothing more. Oh, distinctly I remember. Anyhow,
Taking me back to school right
Yeah,
now.
it's
I remember
right
it.
there.
That's a gift right there.
It's right there.
That's a
but
gift.
That was The Raven. Then there was Rudyard Kipling.
Okay.
If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you and make allowances for their doubtings too. If you can dream and not make dreams your master. If you can think and not make thoughts your aim. If you can meet triumph and disaster and treat these two impostors just the same.
Yes.
If you can bear to hear the truth that you have spoken, twisted by knaves to lay traps for fools, or watch the things you gave your life for broken and go and build them up again with worn out tools. I'm not going to give you the whole poem, but I'm giving you some sense of what they was giving me.
Yeah. He was spitting that
Listen, I
knowledge
remember
on us
it.
for
We
a
had
second.
we had to read it in
Yes, yes.
school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was getting that at like 5 or 6, and they would tell me to write it down.
Okay.
And the next day they came, they wanted to be recited. And everybody was amazed because the next day when they came, I was able to recite.
You was recited, yeah.
So those were the people that I was exposed to. So I got a sense of the spoken word because they were also giving me Shakespeare, Friend, Roman
Very
Countrymen. Let
early.
me
You got all
Yes.
that very
I come
early.
to bury Caesar, not to praise him.
Very early.
So I was doing the burials of Mark Antony and Brutus at the burial of Caesar. But they were giving me this, and I didn't even know what I was learning.
Wow.
I was like 5 or 6.
That's what I was saying. I was so young. Like,
I just knew I remembered.
you just know, you had to remember.
Yeah.
It was all memory at that
I
time.
didn't get an appreciation for it until I may have gotten around 11 or 12.
Okay.
And then I was going to the library stealing the books, you know. So
Borrowing.
Was school,
Borrowing
was
the
school
books.
like relatively easy for you?
I skipped through school.
Okay.
Yeah, I skipped through school.
Okay.
And I got tested for Mensa when I was a young boy.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But I got put out
As
of
you
school.
should. As
Yeah.
you
As I turned
should.
16. They took me right out.
What do you
Okay.
feel like it was the change of turn point for you in your life?
It wasn't any single one thing, you know, that really changed my life. It was the period that allows for introspection
Okay.
and being in jail and reflecting and seeing, you know, I was on the wrong side of history when I was
Right,
young.
right, right.
You know, I was in the game. I was huge in the game. They say I made the city tap out, you know. So that's what I was on when I was in that world. My thing was, it's better if you live in the jungle, it's better to be a lion than a lamb. You know, I'm going to be the top of the food chain, you know. But
Boss mentality.
yeah,
baby.
but that was the wrong side of history.
Yeah.
You know, in retrospect.
But he made it.
But when you're living it, it's not because you that dude. You know, and although I've never been condescending, you know, I've never been really egotistical, but I've always been very, very driven, and I'm very goal orientated.
Right.
Plus, I'm ADHD. So you know,
Yeah.
I got this hyper energy.
Got you.
So that's what drove me in that world. And it's that same energy I brought back when I came to the streets.
Gotcha.
That's driving me in the world of where I'm at now.
Yes, very
That's what I was
focused.
about to say too. So let's talk about the right side of history now.
Amen.
Coming out and doing things.
Fast
So
forward.
let's talk about what's going on with the Akbar Pray Foundation for Change. How can you summarize that and what's going on with that?
While I was in jail, I'm going to go back to jail for 1 minute. I met a lot of guys that were similarly situated to me in terms of time.
Okay.
I was sentenced to a non-parolable life sentence plus 50 years. In the off chance that I overturn my life sentence, you got 50 years to still do. But I met other guys, and the non-parolable of the life was probably, in some regards, the most burdensome because every time you look at papers and it says continue the expiration, you know what I'm
Yes.
saying? So that means that they want you to die
Continue
in the
there.
And, you know, and whenever you look at that, it's like you're seeing it for the first time, you know. And although we learn to live with it, it's a burden that never really leaves. Okay. So when you in there, if you got 50 years, you know, you say the time is going fast.
Yeah.
Because every day takes you closer to the
Yes.
door.
Yeah.
Yes.
When you have a non-parolable life sentence, you don't want this time to go fast because every day takes you closer to the crib.
So, yeah.
So you really live in a parallel universe, you know.
Yeah.
So that was the world that I lived in. But they had guys in there that had, like, I don't have no instances of violence in my life ever. Not so much as a domestic violence. Somebody called the police because we arguing. Not one fight the whole time I was in prison. No, not even an insubordination. Yeah, nothing. I had an exemplary record, which is what also helped me get out eventually.
Yeah.
I had an exemplary record, and I became a role model, not just to the inmates, but also to the administration, because I brought in financial literacy in a lot of those places. I brought in the scammers. You know them. they do
Yes.
Sprinkle a little game
Yeah,
everywhere.
yeah.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
They do credit repair and trade lines and what is it? What is the corporations?
LLCs,
No, when you buy the
trusts.
corps, when you buy the financial records and all of that.
The Shelf Corps.
Yeah, Shell.
The Shelf Corporation.
So they do all of this shit ice cold.
Oh, you
Across
was
the
dealing with
board.
Shell Corps today?
Yeah. So I'm telling the guys, I said, listen, man, I'll tell you how it started. I was in Butner, and we had a homie, and when they say that the person got the yard, that means that he's really running everything.
Right.
Okay.
Well, the person that had the yard there was from Newark. So when I came there, he was the big homie, but he's telling them, this is my big homie. But I'm not on gang time at all, but
Right.
for whatever reason, I'm their big homie. So,
Respect.
yeah.
Hey, man, you ain't got to be in the game.
I
You
say
can be
big
a
homie could be a mentor.
I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah.
It's your character, man.
When they teaching you.
So when I walked the yard with him one day, all day people was running up to me. He was squaring beefs and putting out fires, you know. And I said, homie, we talking. This is my main man. His name is Slug. I think 9 Trey or something. I said, homie, you got power, but you got negative power, man. I said, we got to find a way to turn that around. So I said, I want you to call all of the shot callers in prison and meet me on the yard. So they came out from the West Coast. They had some guys from the West Coast, and especially out of Chicago, that they still call me their big homie. A lot of the GDs, you know. So I said, I want you to call everybody on the yard, just the shot callers, and I want to talk to them, you know. So the only ones that didn't come out was the Mexicans. They don't really mess with blacks for real.
I was going to ask that too.
No,
Yeah.
but they didn't come out. The Latin Kings did,
Okay.
Oh, okay.
but not the Mexicans. Not
Aryan
the
Nation.
Mexican Arabs, please.
Okay, I just double checking.
Aryan Nation.
That's
I thought I said you got somebody out of there. That's why I was just double checking.
No Aryan Nation. So I said, we was outside, and there was about 20-some people around. So I said, I want to ask a question, and this is what you would find interesting. I said, how many of you in here know Kobe scores? His stats. Every hand went up.
Wow.
I said, how many of you in here know what a trade line is? Not one hand went up. I said, how many of you in here know what your credit score is, or even what a credit score is?
Right.
What it's based off.
How you,
Not
right.
one
how you
hand went up.
accumulate.
Aw, stop it.
No,
That's,
no.
yeah.
Around what year
I believe
was
it. I
This
believe
is
it.
like, I'm just leaving.
Okay.
Right.
Only been home 6 months.
Yeah, I was about to say, it was what, October you got out.
Making moves already. My bad. I got
Yeah, that's all right. That was
confused for a
quick.
second.
Yeah.
September here, dude. Like,
Yeah.
what year again?
I've
Like,
been home 6 months.
Right.
So all of this happened while I'm just leaving.
Right.
So I said, homie, there's something wrong with this picture. I say, but we're going to make it right because I want to change the narrative on this compound.
Yes.
I say, so we're going to teach classes on financial literacy, business startups. We're going to conduct mock job interviews. We're going to do resume preparation.
Get them right.
We're going to do effective public speaking.
Nice.
You know, in social etiquette.
You're doing the prison's job. That's what it's supposed to be for
that's what they
rehab,
should be
right?
doing
So
anyway,
he's
the
basically
rehab.
doing y'all.
Yes, yes.
So
My bad.
we went the next day or a few days later. Generally, when you have a class in prison, maybe 15 to 20 people show up.
Okay.
When I started the class, 150 people showed up.
Wow.
And I graduated 127.
Amen.
Wow.
Good.
So
Amen.
See that impact?
when you see them,
That's real growth.
That impact is
Yeah.
there, man.
when you seen them in knots on the prison yard now, like 4 or 5 guys, they wasn't talking about the cars crashing. They was talking about the stock market crashing.
Gotcha.
You know, they was talking about nonprofits and 501s. You know, everybody got on that page.
Yeah.
And that's what became fashionable. The bullshit,
The
excuse
knowledge.
me, but the nonsense was no longer fashionable. They was like, man, you going to the class, man, you know. What do I have to do? So I have to go through this one. They talk about Experian and all of that. And I had a guy that was also teaching Bitcoins.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was
Heavy
a
on
wizard.
Yeah, that's all I tell everybody. Buy Bitcoin, save it, don't trade it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's it. Bitcoin. I'm on the Bitcoin savings right now. That's the Bitcoin
We
standard.
had a brother that was teaching Bitcoin that was a wizard. So now the whole chapel is filled up. We're going on Saturdays and I think Fridays. No, Saturdays and Thursdays.
Okay.
Every week, you know. It was like a 13 or 14 week course. And then we would bring in the next group.
Okay.
Nice.
These guys started getting their credit repaired in there because the scammers got this shit ice cold.
Yeah.
You know. So they teaching them how to do it, teaching them what to do, you know, how to, you know, do the first account and, you know, the whole nine. And the prison was loving it because it had cut down the violence and the nonsense, you know. So I had did something similar in another place in Otisville up in New York.
Okay.
But we were also teaching forklift training, you know, the whole nine,
Need that.
retail marketing,
Wow.
accounting 101, you know. So we were teaching a lot of courses, but the guys were eating it up. Yeah. A lot of these guys are innately intelligent, but they're uneducated, you know.
No one showed
And
them
so
the ropes.
we were real. See, in there you have to get your GED, but that's it. You know, like if you test well, you're gonna get past your GED. But then that's the end of the
To
road.
go further,
that's
yes.
just
A
basics, though.
GED
Math,
or a
English.
high school education now is like in the technology world technological world that we live in, it's like graduating from the 4th grade.
Right.
They
You
changed
still-
everything.
you need so
You
much
80,
more.
I
80
said
isn't
that
even
too,
a D
because
anymore.
I've
need
taken
so
college
much more.
classes recently. I said I feel like I'm in a more advanced high school course right now.
That's
Like,
all it
you know what I
is.
mean? So-
And it's crazy how they changed the grades too. Like D is like
They're dumbing it
what,
down. as they're
70.
saying.
It's not.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
Like,
not what
you
it
could
used
be
to
an
be.
80 and that's like an
still
A.
need
I'm
that
like, that's
curve
crazy.
sometimes.
I'm like, it would have been way different. This grading system back then. That's crazy.
So, what would be your message to you for all the young people out there? I'm not just gonna say brothers. All the young people out there that actually looked up to you for all the wrong reasons. What would be your message out there? Because we know that you have a foundation out there and all that, pushing the change, pushing the message that you've been pushing for all these years. What would be a message for them?
I would ask them to weigh a question that I had come to weigh in jail. And that question it's advanced by a statement. And the statement is, if you can't trust the person that you sell to, and you dare not, my connect bust me, and you dare not trust the person that you buy from,
Right.
then you're not in a game, you're in a trap. You know?
He said that.
And that begs the question, does the risk outweigh the reward? You know, and that's what I would beg anybody to ask, because on your first offense, it might be the last time you see the streets.
Right.
Because I didn't really have a record. You know, I didn't get busted with
And you
any
would
drugs.
think, right.
Yeah. I didn't
No
get
priors?
busted. No
jacket,
violence
clean.
ever in my life. No priors.
Clean.
You know, I didn't have that, and I still ended up with life plus 50 years. Yeah. So, regardless to how much money you made, and I made a lot of money, you know, it's not worth what it ended up costing. I almost stayed in jail 40 years. Yeah. There's no amount of money that would justify that.
At
No.
all.
You know?
Yeah.
So, the fact that, man, I ain't really doing no hell of a lot, that don't mean nothing to the prosecutor.
No.
That you only selling 8 balls. Yeah. He don't care about that. You are a career advancement for him. This is how he's getting ready to build his career.
Yes.
So if you only selling 8 balls, he's getting ready to say that you got the
They
whole
are.
city flooded with 8 balls.
Yeah, they're always looking to make an example too.
Yeah.
So especially, so that's
And
that's rough.
unfortunately, examples have been young people of color.
Yeah.
You know, because most
Very
of the guys,
unfortunate.
Yep.
yeah, most
And
of
they
the people
still
that I
don't
met that
see
were
it.
like saddled with time, I met guys that hadn't even started shaving yet.
Wow.
You know, they had a bunch out of Baltimore. 4 or 5 of them came at the same time. All of them had life plus 30, and nobody was 22.
That's crazy.
You know, there were some friends of mine called the Torres brothers. They were out of New York, and they were getting a lot of money. You know, they showed their records. They was doing $250,000 a day. That's what they was making.
Sheesh.
Yeah,
Oh, they was going after
Yeah,
the
that
big
was-
fish every time.
yeah. So,
Which block? Swing.
I'm trying to get the 10K a month right now.
no, they were doing that a day.
Yeah.
Because their records under the Super King statue, it was only me and them that was sitting under that at that time in the country.
Oh, yeah.
Now to get, you have to be at a certain like limit or weight certain to get that statue.
You have
correct?
to be the Super Kingpin. 848B is the Kingpin's boss.
Okay.
The
Okay.
Kingpin is the guy that's
That
running
ordinance.
everything, but he's got a boss, and his boss is the Super Kingpin.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha.
So it was me, Victor and Joyce Torres, and a lady whose name escapes me, a big Colombian lady. We had gotten sentenced. First it was me and Vic, and me and the Torres brothers. And when they sentenced us like that, they didn't even know what to do with us. We came in the system.
Wow.
So they used to have to get their visits from the hole. They would make them go to the hole like in the shoe, solitary confinement, and that's where their visits had to come to. They wouldn't let me get a visit for like the first 6 months, and every application I put in, it didn't go to my counselor. It went to the FBI, and they determined
they
they
had
I
to
should
do
be
it,
able to see me. You know, so they didn't understand the Super Kingpin status, but that's sort of what made it difficult for us. You know. Now let me return to the question because I went off into the
Yeah, no, it's okay.
yeah. But anyhow, it was
We hear you.
it was a difficult undertaking at that time. The Torres brothers got sentenced to life plus 175 years. Yeah.
It's crazy how they just add those numbers on there. Like that's
What
all. It's
else
all
y'all
like a
get these
mental
numbers
thing.
from?
Like
Is it a
just to hear, they just know. Like just to hear the
calendar?
number.
It's a chart. Or
Just to hear the
something?
number, they know
I
how
don't
to
know
break
where
it
that's
down even
from.
more. You know what I mean? It's just a mind thing too. Like
And they became, while we were in there, they became staunch evangelical Christians.
Right.
And they started living a real good life. Both of us
Different.
was in here. We was on something else. And they were doing all of the right things. And eventually, they overturned their Super Kingpin status.
Okay.
But they didn't go home. They went back to court. And they had certificates and accolades up the wazoo, like this thick. And the judge said, listen, I recognize the good that y'all are doing
Right.
and that you have obviously changed your life. He said, I sentence you to life plus 175 years under the Super Kingpin. I'm going to sentence you to life under the regular Kingpin. And yeah, he sentenced them to life again. The second time around, after recognizing everything that they did.
Like, what was it? Was it not enough?
No, it wasn't enough. Listen, when I was in prison, I ran the largest inmate-ran organization in the country.
Right.
Yeah. I stopped gang violence between the blacks and the Mexicans because of who they said I was. I had a lot of weight. I did everything except for find a cure for cancer.
Right.
But
Close.
they wouldn't, yeah.
Close.
And I was studying oncology. I was trying to look for a way
would have
out.
been on you like Dr. Sebi.
Yeah.
That's another conversation.
But no, they want, when they give you those sentences, they intend for you to die in jail. But thank God the Torres brothers are home too.
Right.
Yeah, they're home. And some other friends of mine's home. But I left a lot of guys in there that are nonviolent drug offenders. And they are, some of them are suffering from early onset Alzheimer's or dementia.
Yeah,
They
I
have
was
one
going to
guy,
say,
he was
do you
91
still
years
have
old.
connections?
He was 91 years old. He had a life sentence. And when he went up for compassionate release, they shot him down because they said that he was still a danger to the community. He was in a wheelchair. He could barely hear. He could not dress himself, you know, but they shot him down.
Still
So
sad.
the system is unforgiving. So in answer to your question, coming all the way around, what would I advise young guys? You know that you don't want to get caught up in the crosshairs
Right.
of the federal government because they are
different.
unforgiving, and even if you are right, they're never going to admit that. You know, they've had guys murder cases, and they found that the DNA evidence, you know, justified what they were saying, and they still asked them, well, listen, you don't have to cop to the murder or the rape, but just plead to an assault because they want to maintain
Something.
the record
Something,
that they wasn't
yeah.
wrong.
Something,
You know?
right.
Everybody thinks that when you beat those cases that you get a large sum of money. That's rare. That's why you hear about it.
Right, right.
Because it's rare.
Yeah,
Because
it's
if it was the
very
norm,
rare.
it wouldn't
That's
be.
not
When
always
when
the
we
case.
speaking
Yeah.
about it, yeah.
In some places in the South, you get $200-300. You done did 40 years.
Yeah.
Wrong, yeah.
That's crazy.
Wrongfully
Gotta be
convicted.
shit,
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
Sure.
crazy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even. You might just hold it. Don't even tell me I got that money.
Yeah.
At that point, I'm about to burn the city. Yeah,
That's crazy.
Like that. What?
A friend of mine who was a Black Panther, his name was Bowers. He did
Okay.
51 years. He went in at 26. He left out at 77. You know, and they didn't want to give him $200 upon his release. They argued him down. They told him they would give him $35.
No way.
All that money these prisons
That
make
they
off
made
Petty.
off
That's
of
pettiness.
these humans, and
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah. So
How can you rehab off of that?
no. So once you understand
Right.
the nature of the beast that you're dealing with, it should at the very least give you
It's a
pause.
lose-lose
You know,
situation.
but the narrative has to be told. You know, so that's part of what I do. I have to tell that narrative because guys still think that prison is cool. You know, they see guys and they in the jail and they take.
And that's the way. That's how they push
Yeah,
it on
they
social
have-
media.
yeah,
Everybody
they
with their
have social
phones
media
and
now.
oh, we eating this. I'm like, yeah, they can do everything but
Personally,
leave.
like you said, I blame the OGs. Like I'm saying, I'm no saint, you know what I mean? But I made some right decisions in my life. All thanks be to God and stuff.
Right.
I listened for the couple times that I did listen in my life. It turned out okay. No, I mean, but I blame the OGs. You know what I mean? I feel like from what I've seen and experienced, the OGs pushing that narrative and stuff like that. And
Some of them are. You know what they say? A fool at 40 is a
Not
fool.
all,
No,
but
no. They say a fool at 40 is a fool for life. You know. So if you meet somebody and he's 40 years old and he's a damn fool, he's a damn fool.
Yeah,
you know.
it ain't no
So
changing.
you get
It hasn't
older, but you
accelerated
don't
from
grow
there.
up. And
Right.
here's the thing about what happens, and it happens with the old guys. If you go to jail at 20, at some point you are 55. But this is what's happened. It's arrested development. You haven't had the kind of life experiences that would allow you to mature. All you're worrying about is how you get an onion out of the kitchen or how to make a sting or who got shanks. If those are the intellectual and emotional challenges that you have, you don't grow. So even if you're in the streets and you have a slew of failures, each failure is a growth. You buy a house, it gets repossessed. You know, you go into chapter 11, you go into receivership. Each one of those things broadens your panoramic view. But if all you're worrying about is how can I get some chicken out the kitchen, and that is really your challenge, or, you know, or who got that bag, and that's your challenge every day, then you don't grow. There's no emotional growth. There's no intellectual growth, you know. So you really reason, although you're 50, you reason like an adolescent. People think, oh, that nigga's going hard because he man, fuck this, fuck that. That's not growth.
That's
You know,
not
he's
talent.
hard. No, that's not growth. You know, you've stagnated, you know. And so a lot of them
Complacent.
don't grow. And it's unfortunate that when you become institutionalized, it's incremental. If it happened overnight, everybody would recognize it.
Right.
Yeah.
But it happens very,
time.
very slowly and
Slow
incrementally,
pace.
and you don't realize it's happening. It's just like gaining weight.
Yeah.
You know, you weigh 175, you look up, you're 235.
Exactly.
You
Definitely
never
don't
saw it
realize
coming.
it. Yeah.
You know, because you looking at
Just got
yourself,
into the routine
it's
of
very
doing the
gradual.
same. Yeah.
But people look like, God damn, man.
Yeah.
What happened?
It's funny 'cause I say that about my wife because she loved watching what's the show? My 600-Pound Life. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think like, how they get to 600? Like
Slow.
it was at 300-400. You ain't want to
They're
stop
slow.
there.
The progression is real.
Yeah,
mama.
They're not
yeah, that's
watching.
true too.
They're not
true.
watching. We are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you
So-
know, another thing about people watching you is I know more what you look like than you do.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
You know,
that's a
Yeah,
fact.
because
That's a
right
fact.
now I'm looking at you. I might be looking at you for an hour and a half. If you look at yourself for an hour and a half, people think something's wrong with you.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're like, why was looking at me? What's something on my
that
head?
is true. And it's funny because, like I said, I
Ain't
lost the
nothing wrong
weight,
with you, long
so
as you
my
don't
wife
answer
looking at me
yourself
too.
back. Yeah.
She's like, now I got to get used to this. This is my slim husband.
Meanwhile, he know he
now I got to
feels
get used
good.
to this. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
But yeah, so.
So tell us a little
yeah.
more about your foundation.
Okay. The Akbar Pray Foundation for Change is managed primarily by my children, a few close friends, and hopefully, not hopefully, because in my case, I have a highly professional team. I was fortunate enough to have intelligent children and
Yes.
intelligent close friends.
Amen.
And that's what's made the foundation really be able to thrive. Where
Great.
some other people coming out haven't been able to have this level of competence. And not saying that they're not well intentioned,
Right.
but you have to people yourself with people that know what the hell they're doing.
You have to. You gotta
Yeah.
audit your circle. I say it all the time.
So one of the things that I came out doing was, I don't know if any of y'all were at Penn Station, but I said I was going to launch the coalition. He was. I said that I was going to launch the coalition of formerly incarcerated men. And my reason for doing this is because I left guys in there that I love. They became my family.
Right.
Yeah.
And when I left, they was crying.
Gotcha, yeah.
I'm talking about hard niggas.
Yes.
They was crying, double murder, everything. Man, man. And I could not, in clear conscience, come home and start popping bottles and making it rain at strip clubs. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Where guys that I knew and loved were serving sentences
It's
that if
true.
I didn't try to do something, they was going to die there. Because I also watched guys that I knew die in prison from old age.
Yeah.
And so I said that I was going to do something to try and shift that paradigm, And so I came out, I said, I have a big name. I have a big platform. And I'm the big homie to a lot of the big homies, even out of state, like out of New York, out of Philly. Not so much North Carolina, but Maryland, certainly. And a lot out of D.C. And they were saying, man, we're going to do something. We're waiting until you come home, So when I came home, I reached out to everybody. I said, listen, man, we got to find a way to bring back parole and give these guys hope.
Yes.
Right.
Give them a chance.
Yeah, at least hope. I mean, whether it's ever realized or not is what's not
A little bit
important.
of hope go a long
Yeah,
way.
but the fact that you have any hope is important because it was what sustained me because I didn't live the whole time that I was in jail. I never thought I was going to die there. So I carried it different. I never thought that was going to be my reality. I never lived in the jail.
Right.
I lived in my head. I was like Christ said,
That's a
I'm
good
in the
perspective.
world, but not of the world. That's how I was in jail.
It's all mental.
So, but everybody didn't have that benefit or that self-belief because their circumstances was different, for one, because I had a strong family support system.
Amen.
So it was a
Yeah.
lot of stuff that I didn't have to ever try and sell drugs because I was always all right. I wouldn't, even if you ain't selling drugs, I wouldn't have to make wine or none of that. I wasn't getting in no fights about no nonsense about, you owe me 6 max, or something like that, and if you don't give a
push-ups
damn,
and none of that.
No, I was doing 1,040 minutes, man.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I would work out every day. I always work out. My son will tell you, I work out shadow box, the whole nine, work the bag, work the
Just
pads.
in case, you feel me?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Light on my tongue.
Gotta keep your mental up, keep the health
I
right.
know you're in the hip hop. I tell him, I know you're in the hip hop, but don't hop out there.
Come on, hey, everyone
Come
know,
on
hey,
now.
Don't try me.
Bars.
Don't try me.
just
But-
in case.
But that's what I did, So anyhow, when I came out, I wanted to make sure that I could get these brothers out that I had left.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that's started going through trying to get the clemency through Biden before he left. We worked on that. I was down in D.C. and trying to meet with Hakeem Jeffries, and I had friends that were in Congress that I was trying to touch because I was serious about it.
Yeah.
I was as serious as I hoped that they would be if the shoe was on the other foot.
Yeah.
And my son would sometimes tell me, because he see me up at night, he said, Dad, man, you're doing all you can, man. If if it don't happen, it don't happen. But it wasn't because you didn't try.
Right, right.
But
Push
I'm loyal to a fault.
Yes.
And that's my loyalty is both my greatest strength and my greatest weakness. You know, because I'm loyal sometimes long past the time where I should be loyal. You know, but I'm also loyal when I should be loyal.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I worked on them, and then I had a program for reentry under APFFC.
Okay.
And that was my position, that the rehabilitation, you know, that you should have, and, you know, when you're talking about reentry, that should start not when you get to the streets. It should start while you're still in jail.
Right.
And that if they're not, because they're not really considering rehabilitation, they're considering warehousing inside the jail. So
Right.
I wanted to start the process before they came out, you know. And my thing was that if all you ever did is all you ever done, then all you're going to ever get is all you ever got. So, and they say if you know better, you're supposed to do better. I wanted to at least give them an option.
Right.
You know. So now if you decide to F up and you have an option, then that's on you. Then maybe you are a criminal.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Maybe you are a criminal.
You ain't no victim of circumstances. You're a criminal. You know?
Wow.
I met some guys that's criminal. They love say, man, when I get there, I'm telling you, I'm taking another shot.
Yeah, they gonna do it.
You know?
I'll be right back there tomorrow.
Oh man.
Man.
And then I met some guys that say, brother, I
I
don't
ain't
care if
going
I'm
back.
sleeping under a bridge. I'm not
I
going
ain't
back.
going back.
Yeah,
Not going back.
promise.
Yeah, absolutely.
So-
discipline.
I wanted to have something that would allow them the opportunity not to have to, when you come home, either pick up a pistol or get a package.
Yeah.
You know, that shouldn't be your only choice.
Right.
Yeah.
They was doing something like
Those
that
are
down
options.
at I used to work down at Cavanta in Newark.
Okay.
They burned all the garbage, robbing the front end loaders and stuff like
Yeah.
that too. So it was a lot of, I think it was called People Ready, where they was getting inmates
yeah.
out of jail and stuff like that,
Yeah.
bringing them down. And that really just me watching like from day one, seeing somebody get out of jail, come down with the front end loader, and then like 6 months later they a whole different person just from doing that. Something just stable, you know what I mean?
Because
So and it was
these
good money
aren't
too.
necessarily bad people. A lot of times they had bad circumstances. They
Right.
got a term that says your geography is your destiny,
Yeah.
and your area code will often determine how your life unfolds. You know, so when you are born in that environment, the ones that get out as an anomaly, that's why people note them.
Yes.
You know, I come from a family of dope fiends. All my siblings, my first cousin, everybody except for me became a dope fiend. So they applauded the fact that I was a drug dealer because that was an anomaly because I wasn't a dope fiend.
You wasn't a dope fiend.
You know,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
so I mean, if
just
I had
stood
had
out.
my druthers, I probably would have been studying science, astrophysics,
Yeah.
because that's the kind of stuff I love. I like about black holes and escape velocity, dark matter, and exoplanets. I love that shit, you know.
Wow.
But I didn't get a chance, and nobody ever mentioned college. So I took my opportunities where they were. You know, when you're young and you're in the burning, living in that world, you know, you could be a mathematical genius. You know what they say? He's going to be a number writer. He's good at
Yeah,
math.
you got a math. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or if a girl is dancing.
That's special right there, because
Yeah.
not everybody good at math. I can tell you that much.
Math used to be my favorite subject,
Yeah.
and it's funny because I see my
Actually,
son,
math is one of my
math
favorite
is his
subjects,
thing,
yeah.
so it's like it almost trickled down to him.
So they say everybody has choices. In the urban environment, you don't have multiple choices. You have limited options. You know, multiple choice. Timmy and Beth and Becky have multiple choices. I mean, you know, they have choices. If their mother see them playing a little violin, they bring in a tutor. They bring in a violin. You know, if your mother,
They make it happen.
They put that
To
down.
enhance
Go on,
it.
going
Yeah.
out to play somewhere. You know, because they have the financial wherewithal to elevate whatever their dream is. If she throw away the violin next week and she see her looking in the aquarium, she's getting ready to bring over a person that's going to teach them about aquamarine.
Exactly.
So she really does have multiple choices.
Yeah.
If you're doing it, you have limited options because they don't have the financial wherewithal to effectuate what you need at that point in your
Yeah,
life.
that push.
You know?
That's deep.
So that's the environment that a lot of them are born into. So they say that you're making excuses, and excuse is asking for forgiveness for something. you're offering an explanation.
Gotcha.
There's a difference between an excuse and an explanation.
Right.
Explanation come with a solution.
Yeah. So you offer an excuse, man. Why'd you do, man? Now just excuse me. You're admitting that you did something wrong.
Yeah.
You know, but that's an excuse. You know, but an explanation is, no, bro, I'm blind. That's the only reason I stepped on your foot.
Wow.
You know, so you have to differentiate between the two.
Get the reason right here.
So when you say, yeah, I got into the game because I was born into it, that's not an excuse.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not
You
at
know,
all.
broaden your perspective and understand that this is an explanation. You don't have to accept it,
Right.
but it is what it is.
This
you
is
know?
So you
therapy
can still
for
change it.
everybody. This is therapy. I hope
Yes,
everybody's soaking
yes.
this in right here.
Absolutely.
Well, I
Tell-
know majority of the time that I've run into you, like I said, I was at Penn Station. That's like my stepping grounds because that's where I work. But in regards to that, other places that I've seen you, I know most of them where I am is more on a political side. Mm-hmm. And I see you there. I just wanted to know, where is it that you see yourself in that field?
Well, right now, I'm endorsing Ross Baraka
Yes,
Yep.
to
we
be the
both
governor, as governor of New Jersey. Yes.
are. We both are.
And I do that for several reasons. One of the reasons is because I think that if you look at the political dynamics that's existing in the country right now,
Right.
and the way that the country is moving and how polarized it is, we as a people are facing an existential threat,
Yes.
you know. And if you don't see
Warfare.
that, you're blind. Because every accomplishment that we got in the 60s with the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act, all of that has been eroded. You know, everything that was done with affirmative action, which was necessary to overcome past instances of racism, has been overturned by the Supreme Court.
Right.
You know, now it's gotten to the point where they have to they're erasing us from history by removing all of our artifacts and heroes
Monuments.
from the Smithsonian and every place else, you know.
Everything's
So
changing.
it is important where they're trying to whitewash and having revisionist history that we have some semblance of black power and black influence, you know. And Ross is wide awoke, you know. He's conscious, and some people would say even nationalistic, you know. But that's not a bad thing because we have to act tribal now as a people.
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
we won't exist as a people, and our accomplishments won't exist if we continue to be willy-nilly, like this shit is not really happening.
Yeah.
If we still in like, man, popping bottles and, man, you
We
know,
need to
man,
be on
Trump
the
is
same
my man.
page.
You know, when them
Yes.
checks came out, Trump signed the
Yes,
bottom
I
of it
hate
and all
when
of that
people
kind of
say
shit. So
They
if
have
we
no idea
continue-
where them checks came
No.
from.
Yeah, if you continue along those paths, then we are dooming ourselves. We are dooming the next generation because all of the accomplishments that we made in the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s have already been eroded
Right.
in like 100 days.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah, the first 100 days I was
Right. And if
This
you
is
don't know your
100
history,
days,
don't
and it's
repeat
not
it.
getting better.
at all.
It's-
People worrying about checks and not
Yeah.
even listening to Trump saying death penalty on weed
They're
charges
stuck.
and stuff
Yeah,
like
they're
that.
stuck.
Like, there's a lot of crazy
Back
stuff.
in
going on.
COVID.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Got a
When
long
those
one.
checks were sent
You
out,
know,
it's
and
still
listen,
stuck
when
there.
he said that, you already know what color skin and who that's made for. You know what I mean?
And
So
he's saying that, you know, we're going to unhandcuff the police, you know, law and order. We know who law and order is targeted to.
Yes.
So I believe that all politics is local. And because of that, a governor has a great degree of power. And I would rather see it that power invested in the hands of a black person that understands our struggle
Yes.
and that is in from our communities.
Absolutely.
And I think it's important for black children to be able to look up and see, like seeing Barack first
Right.
time. Some people, kids, the only president that they ever knew was a black president, you know. And I would like for them to be able to say that about a governor. You know?
Right.
that'd be nice. Yeah.
So I'm
And all other
supporting him.
titles.
Yeah, I'm supporting. I endorsed him. Now I'm now the director of reentry and reengagement for the city of Newark.
Nice.
Absolutely.
So I want to work on
Amazing.
reintroducing people back into our communities and showing them how to engage. A lot of people don't understand in New Jersey that ex-felons can vote,
Yes.
but people don't understand that their vote matters. And people say, oh man, I ain't voting, none of this, don't change shit. You will find out how important it is if when it's time for your kid to go to court or for you to go to court, you got a staunch Republican as a judge as opposed to a progressive Democrat. You know, going to
Big
say
difference.
yeah,
ready,
lock them up
yeah.
and throw away the
Because
key.
they ready to do just that.
And so that's when they say shit just got real. So you'll realize that my vote could have changed that.
Absolutely.
And governors and them, they when they do run on the line, they run on the line of people that think along the same lines that they do. I mean, in mayoral race is the same thing.
Right.
So when we advanced the most as a people, it wasn't too long after slavery when we had Black Wall Street, where we had Rosebud, where we had Wilmington, North Carolina. These were enclaves of black progress, and we don't have that anymore, not because we're not still ambitious and stuff, but because of systemic racism,
Right.
About redlining and not just gentrification, but gerrymandering, So we have to find a way as communities, as cities, as counties, and as states to fight against that. What better way for us to do that than to have a black person that's the governor of the state?
Absolutely.
Very true.
And
It's gonna happen.
He just one man. He can't do it alone. So
Definitely.
it takes us. It takes a village.
Takes
it
a
takes a
community.
community.
Absolutely.
That's real,
All
man.
together.
So-
Like,
I'm with him.
Yeah,
Right.
that's good.
Yeah, I'm with him. That's my man.
So even on the lighter side, so being that we here in my podcast studio, I saw you started a podcast.
Yeah.
So what's your main goal or outreach you plan on using that platform for?
This is what I don't want to do, and I'm not. I don't attack, and I don't hold in disdain those that do it because that's your grind.
Yeah.
But I don't want to talk about what kind of Rolls Royce or whether I had a Waif or a Corniche. I don't want to talk about whether I had an Ermine or a Mink. I want thought leaders that's trying to change the narrative of us as a people. I think that people that have positions of influence also have a responsibility.
Absolutely.
And I don't care what arena you're in, if you're a writer, you don't have to just write the nonsense. You can tell a story.
Yeah.
And that story may be a turning point in somebody's life. If you're rapping, the rap can be conscious.
Right.
I mean, what's his name? Keith Lamar?
Yeah.
I love him,
Kendrick.
Kendrick Lamar.
K-Dot.
I'm about to
You see how out of step I am.
yeah, I'm about to
with him, I ain't gonna say I'm the biggest fan, but I'm rocking.
yeah, we got you.
I'm rocking.
Got you.
But
We'll keep it there. Keep it short.
Got you.
but that's why I like Common too.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, yeah.
Because he's sort of conscious, And so it's
He see
not
the
like,
vision.
I'm not no role model. You want to be a role model when you're trying to get your sneakers endorsed.
Yes.
But you don't want to be a role model when you get ready to drop
When
a
it
rap,
matters. It matters.
So I think that that's important. So, in my estimation, we have a responsibility. I have a responsibility because of the platform that I have.
Yes.
So my podcast is a reflection of my sense of responsibility. My first guest was Isaac Wright.
Okay.
Y'all familiar with Isaac?
Yes.
So he was also the brother that got me out of jail.
Oh, okay.
That was my attorney.
Yeah.
But he is also a highly intelligent, driven, passionate person, and he is a pure dog in the courtroom.
He don't play.
He is a dog.
Don't play no games.
So he was my first guest. My second guest was a sister. Her name is My Angel Cody.
Oh yeah, my angel. I was
Why does
thinking
that
like
name sound familiar?
She's a death penalty. She was Kim Kardashian's attorney. Her
Right.
and the girl got named
She was
Kim
working
Kardashian.
on it, right.
The two sisters, yeah. I mean, they're not maternal sisters, but they're
Yeah.
not biological sisters, but they're two sisters, women of color. She was my second guest. She's also a death penalty attorney,
right.
and she is also a beast, and she got a lot of people out of jail
Yeah.
under clemency.
She was legendary.
Nice.
Almost
Yeah, she
10
is.
years, and then she did another. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was my
Time.
second guest. My third guest was a sister out of Philadelphia. Her name was Judge Stephanie Sawyer.
Okay.
She is what they call a decarcerant.
Yes.
She's opposed to incarceration, so she tries to find a way to send minorities not to jail but to programs.
Different, right.
Gotcha.
Those were the kind of views
The different
that I
options, right.
wanted. My fourth guest was Lakeisha Uri.
Lakeisha.
Oh, you
Deputy Mayor.
deep into the to the podcast right now. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's what I
ain't
wanted.
no excuses for nobody
it's
out
not.
there,
Yeah,
man.
And that's why I'm
Like,
doing this right now. 'Cause everybody want to do a podcast. You know what I mean? I'm gonna help y'all facilitate.
Then I had
Absolutely.
Vinny and Tut.
Yes.
Kid, not Tut from
Yeah,
New York.
yeah,
but
yeah.
Uncle Tut.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I had them together to bring in something, a youthful aspect of it, And I had who was the last person? Oh, I had Freeway Rick.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So Freeway, good man, my man. Freeway turned his life around.
Yes, he did.
Big in the cannabis business out there.
Yeah.
I think one time he got stopped with $100,000. They wanted to figure that he was dealing. He
Trying
wasn't.
to figure out where it came from.
Yeah. But he's big in the cannabis business, and we talk maybe about a couple of times, once or twice a month.
Nice.
So he was like my, I consider him a good friend.
Yes.
He was like my sixth person.
Okay.
But those are the kind of people that I want. Looking for sponsorships. Looking
Right.
for donations, send it to. Can I do a pitch?
Absolutely. I'll frame it for you too. Add some captions on there.
Definitely to let the people know where
Let
to
'em
find
know.
you at.
Absolutely.
You can go to apffc.org.
Definitely. So how can the people get in touch with you? Where can the people find you at?
They can go to my Instagram or to my Facebook, and they can leave messages. And my daughters give it to me.
Okay.
And I generally respond to basically everybody.
Nice.
But I certainly respond to people that are in prison or
Okay.
just coming out of prison.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yes.
Make sure they're on the right path as soon as
Yeah,
they walk
yeah.
out.
Absolutely.
We did a documentary that's on Tubi and Amazon Prime.
Okay.
And it's called 848, The Criminalization of America.
Right.
Definitely make sure you check them
Definitely
out. I
gotta
know
watch
I'm
it.
about
I'm
to
gonna
check
check
it
in
out.
now.
No, for
Yeah,
real,
I'm gonna
for
go
real.
look
I ain't
for
know
it.
that.
It's just 848, The Criminalization
Very
of America.
inspirational.
I have a good friend that's on there. His name is Pete Rolock Sr. Y'all know his son, Pistol Pete from
Pistol
Sex
Pete,
Murder.
yes.
Oh, okay.
This is Pete
Gotcha.
Pistol Pete's father. But he was from is it John Hopkins, the school over there in New York?
Yeah.
For criminal justice. He's an associate there. He's also a paralegal, and
Okay.
he is probably one of my closest friends.
Nice.
So
That's wonderful.
he's in the podcast. I don't know if you know what you call him. Boom, 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 boom. Kevin Childs,
I think I heard of the name.
Don Diva Magazine.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Okay.
Oh man, I ain't here from that magazine.
It's been a while.
Non-Diva magazine.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
man,
shut
that's
it
like
down.
that's like when I was buying Smack magazines and everything too.
But anyhow, he's in there. My Angel Cody is in there. There's a lady, her name was Amy Povich. She's in there. She's in there. I'm in there. And another brother named Stutton, who got busted somewhere down south. They busted him, his mother, and his father for cocaine. And the mother died in jail. Then the father died in jail. He's been in jail 33 years. We were able to get him some exposure, and he's coming out in July. He had a life sentence.
Nice.
So they say the wheel that
Get
squeaks the
another
loudest.
chance. Like, yeah.
The wheel that
True.
squeaks the loudest.
The media is changing a lot of
Yeah.
things too. Like once it's in front of the media, that could change the
more-
whole
yeah.
scenario.
Absolutely.
Bring light to something that started a while ago. So,
You got to bring attention to
yeah,
it.
you definitely got to bring attention to it.
Nice.
So on a lighter note,
Yeah.
I see you got the first annual gala coming up.
Yeah, we have an
We have
event
the
coming
gala
up.
coming up May the 17th.
I say May
May the
18th.
18th.
And I don't
May
remember.
18th.
I definitely remember May 18th.
May
That's
18th.
my wedding anniversary. So,
Bet you go. You
I
better.
was like, I definitely got to be here.
I was about to say, right.
I better remember it regardless, right? I
Right.
know, yeah. Shout out to my wife, 11 years.
Because I know we jumped into
good.
the
Yeah.
election
You
and
have
what
a
to
website
expect
out?
from that. But
Exactly.
before we
A
got to that, we have that event.
Yeah, we have a webpage up. APFFC.
CPL, okay.
Yeah.
Where's the gala? Where
Star
where's
Wars.
the
Gala is going to be at the Robert Tree
It's
Hotel.
Robert Tree downtown.
And if you heard, Roxanne Shante.
Roxanne Shante.
She was on her Sirius FM.
Yes.
And she was talking about the gala, and she was saying, "All right, y'all sisters, y'all need to you could put some stockings on this time."
Yeah.
He said, "You ain't got to show some no
Fellas
show
that be
some
coming
class."
suited
you
and
know.
booted.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know?
Definitely like them
And she
suited.
Bring
told
your
all the
slip
guys,
out.
she said, "Take your gators out from under the bed."
Okay.
So she said because she
It's
said
gonna be
she said
nice.
I'm a party around the
So
world.
I got to break out the Stacey Adams.
There you go. yeah.
All right, take it back.
Roxanne said
I'm gonna
when
have to
she come
switch it up,
there.
man. I like that suit, by the way, man.
Oh yeah, you got that.
I was looking at that suit the whole time. Like, I like
Yeah.
Nice.
that blue together, man.
Roxanne said when she comes, she gonna give Robert a treat.
Oh man, nice. Let's do it.
Let's go, girl.
That's nice. That's good, man.
Definitely, man. But
Roxanne, and she's gonna be there. A lot of people's gonna be there. I ain't putting no names out there because
Nah,
some
nah.
people don't want their names out there. but
y'all
they're gonna
better
be
get
there.
a ticket,
Yeah.
man, while y'all
Definitely
can.
get a ticket.
Get a ticket.
I'm telling you,
Well,
the Real
what
Talk
time
show
is
is
it?
going to be in there.
It's from
so
5 to 10.
5 to 10.
5 to 10
Okay,
p.m.
gotcha. Nice.
And
Downtown
they're coming
North.
from
Everywhere.
DC, they're coming from Maryland, they're coming from Philly. New Yorkers, 2-3 cars of New Yorkers coming
Yes.
over
And
there.
you said apffc.org. They can get the tickets from the website too.
absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
nice,
Dang.
nice. Gotcha.
check them out.
That's good. Definitely check them out for
Yeah.
sure.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to raise the bar. I wanted to show, I wanted to create a renaissance.
Yes.
I want to do this. It's a fundraiser, annual fundraiser, and an award ceremony because we're giving out awards
There's a lot of
too.
honorees I've seen.
Nice. Yeah, way to
So,
show recognition because there's a lot of people doing great work out here,
and
man.
we want to let them know that we see you.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
Much
good.
needed.
Louise Roundtree, the councilman at large. Lakeisha Uri is going to be on
Keisha's
it.
going to be there.
The guy Clarence Macklin
Okay.
that just did the movie, got honored in the movie Sing Sing. I think he got an Academy Award nomination, but he didn't get it. He's going to be there. He's being awarded. My man Isaac Wright
Yep.
is being awarded, and my angel Cody.
Yes.
So we're going to do that. But you probably remember or heard about the Harlem Renaissance. And if you saw any pictures of the Harlem Renaissance back then, you saw that blacks used to really, we'll dress up people.
Yes.
And they
We
always
did
wanted
the
to show
thing.
us with our house shoes on walking in the street
Yeah.
and with our hair tied up,
That's all
But-
they show.
Yeah, that's what they want to show, But I've seen the pictorials, of blacks
Of what
during
it
that
really
time.
looked like.
Or if you've seen the early movies back then that was done by Michaud and Stormy, I think it was Stormy Monday or Stormy Sunday, And when you seen that they had on tux and gowns.
We started this.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you got to throw it on.
And so I wanted to bring that back to Newark.
Yes.
So I wanted to raise the bar, and I produced the high water mark. This is the high water mark.
Nice.
It's a lot of things changing
We also
in
have
Newark, too.
somebody in Orange that does it as well. Jeff with Clarity.
Oh,
and stuff.
yeah,
He has
absolutely.
the gala
Shout out
coming up in
Jeff.
June
Yeah.
as well. So
He gives out a lot of recognition,
see
too.
everybody putting everything together and being that example that we all know that we need.
Absolutely.
So that's part of the. I mean, there's multiple reasons why I want to do it, but that's also part of it.
Yes.
To show that this is also who we are. We also tux and tails and gowns.
Yes, we are.
And that needs to be seen. That needs to be seen, and when it's seen, it needs to be lauded and applauded.
It's not a lot of people that own the suit, not even one, and stuff like that.
They
That's
better
real.
get one
But
for
they
this
buy
event.
it. Yeah, they
They-
buy
Oh,
it.
yeah,
They better
you
get
gotta
one.
buy it on this one.
You better get one for this
Absolutely.
event.
Definitely
Show
put
it
your
out.
suits on. Come out to the gala for sure.
Yeah.
That
you
we've
ready.
seen the first 6 months. What are we looking forward to for the next 6 months? The next 6 months.
Continue progress.
Yes.
Grateful
You
to
know, you
have
got
you here,
things
man. You
lined
gave
up.
us a lot of insight, for one, a lot of wisdom, a lot of energy, and definitely appreciate you coming through, stopping by the Real Talk show,
Absolutely.
man. And I was just quiet and all. Usually I'm loud. and
Yeah.
taking it.
Listen, you gotta take in
I-
the information.
Something God gave me 2 ears, even though they malfunctional. So, you know what I mean? Inside
They
if
work
you
when
will.
they want to.
But I definitely soaked in the game, man. You know what I mean? I'm definitely a student to life, man, and appreciate you.
Well, I want y'all to know that this young lady bribed me. Right?
Hey, listen, that's why she's part of the team. She bring them in here.
Yeah.
Man's not taking no.
Yeah, absolutely.
I kept on hearing that this is a young lady that wants to meet you. I'm like, who is that? And I'm like, Dasha?
They messed it up so many times.
Persistent.
So many
We love you, Carmel's going green. We're grateful.
Absolutely.
So finally,
Absolutely.
Rashid was like, hey, man, this sister's trying to meet you. This sister named Dasha.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't
And
think
he-
I know a Dasha. You know?
Right.
Now we know. We all linked
But
up
yeah,
now.
she bribed me.
Yeah.
And she also finished, she paid the bribe off because she bought me a pint of ice cream.
Oh, nice. Ice cream will get it done?
Yeah. I'm a cheap date.
All right, that's cool.
Oh my gosh.
Got you, man. I appreciate you coming through for sure, man.
Man,
I got to definitely get in with you too, as far as the whole financial literacy. I definitely wouldn't mind speaking,
Did you exchange
doing
numbers with my son?
webinars and stuff like that. So
Yeah, okay.
yeah, I'm definitely, and especially even if y'all want to do something here, we'll We're gonna talk about that too.
Okay,
especially.
all right.
So we had 6
You know what I
months.
mean?
We got the next 6
Yeah,
months.
I want to be a part of
on your
the next 6 months now. You know what I
I'm on your
mean?
heels.
Because I definitely want to help spread that financial literacy.
One more time where to find you at, because
Yes,
I
absolutely.
really need you guys to tap in. A lot of great things going on in the community. Definitely has the gala coming up and all that.
May
So I
18th.
need you guys to really pay attention where to find us, man.
Yeah.
All right, listen, it's been love, man. It's been black.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
absolutely. And once again, apffc.org.
.org.
Check out the website. Get your tickets for the gala.
Hey,
And you know what I mean? It's the Real Talk Show, man. Appreciate you guys coming by.
Okay, baby.
All right,
Absolutely.
appreciate it, man.
Number 2.
Y'all stay up, stay safe.